All right, everybody, welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Today we are talking about detoxing without the drama. There's all sorts of noise out there, not all bad noise, but noise about should you detox, should you not, what kind, how to, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're going to just have a conversation, some real talk about that today. And I have invited my beautiful friend all the way from Belize joining us. Are you in Belize right now or are you in the States?
I, I am. Nope. I was just in the States for almost 3 weeks, but I'm back in
You're
Belize
home. She's home.
on my island.
Karen Jansen is joining us from Belize. Karen and I are uh, doTERRA founders together. We did that push together and we became good friends. And, me and her son are best friends, actually. You guys should know that.
Oh, Dylan loves you. Loves
I love him
you.
so much. And she is a detox expert. So I'm going to just give the floor to you, Karen. I might chime in with a couple of questions based on, just what's coming in through the chat and things that I know about you already. But I thought maybe a really good
Uh,
place for you to start is a little bit about your own personal journey, how you landed with doTERRA, why you became interested in the topic of detoxing.
yep. Okay. Happy to do that. Please, you guys ask questions as I go. I put together two slides just to kind of highlight some key points, but I know this is more of a conversation. It's a big topic for me. It's a big topic that's impacted my life. Um, More than I would ever imagine it could impact my life. So I have a lot to say. So jump in if something's not clear, or jump in if you want me to dive deeper on any topic. I'm not planning to focus on any like of the nitty-gritty related to science and how our bodies, detox at cellular level with the enzymes and the cellular receptors. I want to share my story because I think that's probably the most powerful, as Danny, you mentioned, and then share some of the first things that I did to heal, and then hopefully get you guys to start thinking about things in your environment, in your life that could be impacting your health negatively that maybe you weren't thinking of before. So that's kind of my goal. Is that okay, Danny? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So how did I get into doTERRA and how did I get into this topic of detox? So not by choice, really. I mean, eventually it was choice, but so background, education wise, I have an executive MBA, so master's in business, two undergraduate degrees. I was like business person. I was a management consultant at clients all over the world. It was a great life. It was a lot of work, 80, 100-hour weeks. I was living in Manhattan, living like the big dream in my 20s. And all of a sudden I got really sick. Like all of a sudden, I was in a yoga class. Yoga was kind of new back then. This is over 20 years ago. And one day I literally couldn't do a downward dog. Like my body just collapsed. And I thought, what is going on? And from that point, I was probably 23. And at that point, things just really quickly deteriorated. I finally, within like 2 years, had a lupus diagnosis. I was in pain all the time. It would take me like 30 minutes to get out of bed because I would wake up and everything hurt. My skin would burn. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I had zero energy. I was living in Manhattan, and actually, my husband and I moved out of the city because I literally couldn't walk up the subway steps many days. I would sit at the bottom of the steps. I was 24 at this point, and I would look at the steps and I would just say, "Oh God, please, lift me up these steps." Nobody knew I was doing this. Nobody knew I was struggling because I looked fine on the outside. Fast forward, we moved to Austin, Texas. Ended up having two children, but really had trouble with both of the pregnancies. Was so weak when the babies were born. Anybody who's a parent here, having a child is very physical. Like when the baby's in the car seat, you got to lift that car seat with that infant to your car. I didn't have the energy for half of that. I couldn't push my girl in her in the stroller. She was born with a lot of health issues. I'm thinking, what is going on? Um, in these years, I ended up seeing over 40 doctors. Like I have the names, 40. So this is over many years. It was a 15-year journey for me before I found the root cause of my health issues. And I'll share that at some point on this call pretty quickly. But what I realized was all this effort that I was doing to regain my health, my energy, my mental capacity. It was almost like I had a different personality at some points because I felt so um, so agitated and just not myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was anxiety. I don't know what I would label it as, but it just wasn't me. But I had very little control over it. So I had all of these things going on. And it wasn't until I decided I'm done going to regular doctors. No prescriptions are helping me. I'm going to try the holistic route. So this is kind of how I got led to doTERRA. Changed my diet. When I changed my diet to clean food, meaning I wasn't counting calories, I wasn't looking at macros, like proteins, fats, and carbs. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just looking at no processed food. Everything started getting better. It was crazy. So there I was in my kitchen all the time. And God bless all the chefs and cooks out there because it takes a long time to cook everything that you're eating from scratch. If you open my pantry, I actually have a picture somewhere in my presentation. I don't know if I
Yeah.
kept it in here.
And
Um,
while you pull that up, like maybe some people, I'm not sure that everybody will even understand when you say no processed foods, what
oh, yeah.
does that mean?
Yes. No processed foods, meaning nothing in a box, a bag, or a can. Nothing that somebody has taken, food manufacturer, right, and created something from it for us to eat. So I'm talking like you go to the grocery store, I was in the produce aisle. That's where I really was. Or if it was meats, I made sure it was like grass-fed, grass-finished, like all organic because I knew about the pesticides and things. And as expensive as it was, that transition, and as much time as it took, it gave me time back in my life and it gave me money back in my life because I was able to keep working and I was able to be functional most days. And that was just changing food. So there, our food supply, most of us know a lot of it. We have a lot of toxicity in our foods. You open up a bag of chips, look at the back. If there's more than like five ingredients, what is it? It's not really food. Our bodies have a really hard time processing that. And if you remember going back to my story about one day in yoga class, I couldn't even like do a downward dog. You're good until you're not good. And like, so I say this not to create fear, but a lot of us are going about thinking, okay, we're talking about detox, we're exposed to chemicals, we're exposed to um, pathogens, we're exposed to, virus, all these things that weigh on our bodies, but we're fine until we're not. So I try really hard to share my experience because I didn't know it was coming. I got to a tipping point. Maybe now's a good chance for me to actually show one of my slides. And then if I can find that food slide, I'll show you. But that's the food part. Of course, there are things like food allergies, which I developed, never had any other time in my life. But when your body is so burdened, let me see if I can share this. When your body is so burdened by things that are interfering with its ability to function as we were designed, like, right, like we are designed perfectly, we're designed beautifully. And when things are when we're exposed to things that impact negatively, our bodies cannot do what they want to do. They are constantly striving to reach homeostasis. You guys will have to tell me if this comes up. I hope this works. Let's see.
And homeostasis is just like a state of balance, right?
Yes,
Where
correct.
our bodies are working properly as designed, and we are just exposed to so many things. Um, you walk out the door, you're exposed to things that our bodies register as toxic, which
Yeah.
is where this term, toxic, lifestyles and toxic things comes from. I think it's yeah, your slide is coming up slowly. Yeah,
Is it?
we just
Okay.
see white right now.
Oh, really? Okay, hold on. It's paused. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, and even oh, I see the white. Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop and go again. Even inside the home. So the cleaners, right, that we use. And so my mom, she can you see it now, Danny?
Not yet. It's up. Here we go. Yep, there it is.
Okay, good. I'm not even going to make it full screen because sometimes that messes up with Zoom. But even, inside of our home. So my mom is from Brazil, and when she moved to the States, she didn't speak the language. She cleaned homes, she cleaned hotels, she sent money back. It's like immigrant story. I'm a first generation American. I'm super proud of that. And She was exposed, she's very healthy, but housekeepers are exposed to a lot of toxins on an everyday basis. We are exposed. We're cleaning our own homes with products that we are inhaling. If we, clean down a surface with a product that smells good, if it's smelling good 2 hours later and it's smelling good because of artificial fragrance, our bodies are still having to process that, right? What we smell goes into our bloodstream through our lungs. It's like a cigarette smoke because of cigarette smoke, because there's toxins into your bloodstream from that cigarette smoke. It's the same thing. So I just want to show this picture because it's taking a step back to talk about kind of remember that yoga moment that I shared. So how full is your toxic bucket? I guess I will never know exactly, but what likely happened to me was I just had too much of this stuff, and all of a sudden my bucket started overflowing. And so this picture right here talks about toxics. So toxic load being the sum of toxic substances accumulated within your body and the burden they place on vital organs. So this is talking about kind of things that we encounter every day, right? Outside of our homes, inside of our homes. There's another level, which is toxins that we actually don't see, in addition to air pollution, but electromagnetic. So, you may have heard of like EMFs. Well, we didn't have 5G. We didn't have satellites in the sky. It's like scientifically proven that our cells are impacted by all of these waves in the world. And it sounds kind of crazy, right? But I'm sure it sounded kind of crazy to people who smoked cigarettes back in the day when we didn't know that they are toxic, right? It's not. Another example is like, do you remember we used to have hand wash that had, I think it's called triclosan. It's a chemical that was like an antibacterial agent. Well, that was recalled. That was taken off out of products because it's causing cancer. Like so many things we think are okay, and then we find out years later it's not. Um, so this bucket, I want you to keep in mind, there's also another type of toxicity that can go in that bucket, which is called endotoxin. So it's like it's like when we have bacterial infections or viral infections, this is really important, especially for GI problems, like if you have E. coli or H. pylori, or there are all these different bacterial things that can happen right in your GI tract. Parasites, even, they excrete toxins. And so not only are they a burden on the body, but the toxins that they excrete. So my point is like not to make it sound crazy, but there I was at age 23, and I'll share soon what the main source of my toxicity was. But there I was at 23, my life totally turned upside down. And I look around and I see people with asthma, with behavioral issues at school, with a lack of ability to focus, with anxiety, with brain fog, lack of energy, all these things. I had so many of those things. And when I cleaned up my lifestyle and removed the source of toxicity, everything went away. Like Danny, our founders run, you know how physically and mentally taxing that was? There is absolutely no way I could have done that in my 20s or my 30s. I'm 46. I was 41, I think, when I started working with doTERRA. And the founder's opportunity came up shortly after. I think I was 42. So there's no way, like my body would not have been able to to manage that. But if you look at this next side, okay, there's some AI did something funky with some of the spelling and in some of the words on the right. But the average woman puts on her body 515 synthetic chemicals every day without even knowing. So after the experience I had, and I will share really, really soon what my source was, but I don't trust anything. And it's been kind of a bummer way to live, but it's also kept me healthy. And I have a daughter who was born when I was very toxic, and she has a lot of health issues. And so we do everything we can to not have this in her life. She's a teen, so she doesn't like that. But these every single day before we're walking out the door in the morning, we have applied so many chemicals. And just like we know our oils we can apply on our skin and they're literally like detectable in the bloodstream, anything we put on our skin does that. So I always remind people like think about like a nicotine patch, like it's being absorbed. So this goes for like shampoo, our hair. I didn't hair dye my hair for years after I found out what had been bothering me. Um, I didn't like,
And Karen, I just wanted, can I just jump in real quick? Because I just
yeah,
want to underscore what some of the things that you're saying, right? Because if you go back to that original slide that you were on, um, so much of this stuff is just like by default how we live in this country in particular. We are exposed to certain things. Many of these things we're exposed to. You go to like a Target, and your personal health products that you see, almost all of them fall into the toxic bucket in some level of toxic load that adds to our buckets. And so this conversation is so important because there's a lot of stuff we cannot control, but there's also a lot of stuff that we can. And that's what we want to do, is like empower you guys, not to scare you, but to empower you for these simple little things that you can do to reduce your toxic load and also to reset your body on a regular basis so that you can relieve some of those toxins.
yeah, yeah. And it is such a journey. I
Mhm.
started with food. Um, it was miraculous, honestly. That was before I removed the source. So I will share, and I know there are some gentlemen on this call, and I hope it's not TMI, but I think it's really important. I had breast implants and I got them when I was 21. I'm thin. I wanted something. And also my mom is Brazilian. In Brazil, plastic surgery is very common. I thought nothing of it, nothing of it. Within 2 years, I did not have leaching happening. I didn't have a leak. It was simply the chemicals that are in the shell of the implants that were in my body. So there I was going from doctor to doctor. There I was buying all organic food, spending hours in the kitchen. Um, and the not only was like the source something I was putting on my skin every day, or like there's an example of somebody in doTERRA whose daughter had very severe respiratory issues, and it turned out it was the baby powder that she was putting on her daughter's bed when she changed the sheets that were the culprit. Like the daughter was in the ER regularly. It was the baby powder. It wasn't like that. This thing was inside of me. And we all have different detoxification capacity. I'll go to this slide really quickly. I'm going to bounce around. So this is kind of blurry. It's an old slide. But we have different details of us have organs for one reason or another. Genetics come into play that work better than others. So whereas some people can handle implants fine, I would argue everybody at some time will have an impact from them. But possibly not as much as I had, but there are hundreds of thousands of women who have now taken them out because they thought, aches and pains were due to aging or lack of focus was due to like too much screen use or whatever it is, but it was actually toxicity. And since we're on this page, see this gut intestine? Can you see that okay, Danny, down here?
Mhm.
So this is one way that we eliminate, right? We take like compounds that our bodies aren't happy with come in and we excrete them through our bowels. Um, this is so important because when we take a lot of antibiotics and it's proven now that beyond antibiotics, a lot of medications are known to harm the liver, but also they can cause a lot of distress in the gut. The gut lining can become permeable, where toxins can move more quickly into the bloodstream just from the gut. Lots of things that we do, that the processed foods can impact the gut. And when that happens, we are not excreting well. And so that organ of elimination is impacted. Um, so there's, and genetics come into play, and toxins are really well known for turning turning genes on and off. So I don't know if you guys have heard of epigenetics, but we're born with our DNA, our genes, but we can turn things on and off in favor of good health and also um, against good health. And toxins are known for that. So, Danny, there's one thing I didn't talk about at the beginning, and I alluded to it, but it's this notion of deficiency and toxicity. And doTERRA talks a lot about this. And let me see if I have. Okay, so I'm just going to bounce around here. This I love. I love this. If I had had our wellness pyramid back when I was sick all those years, I would have been able to organize my thoughts of everything I was learning. I used to read, I used to try to figure things out because I had to. Nobody, nobody was able to help me. No, nobody cared more than I did, right? I could have been bedridden the rest of my life if I hadn't taken it into my own hands to keep trying things and to learn. But this organizes everything that I learned in terms of how to stay healthy. Everything is in here. You can put it in one area or another. Because of my experience, I would put reduced toxicity lower. I think it's even more foundational than, here. Um, but the interesting thing is when we are deficient in some sort of micronutrient, like a mineral or a certain vitamin, our cells don't work as well as they could in order to process out the toxins. So we talk about toxins like impacting organs, but the organs are tissue, which are made out of cells. And really, it's detoxification at the cellular level that matters. Um, and so I love this. And I love the fact that we can use this to guide, our efforts. And I love that doTERRA has this whole like array of non-toxic products that we can work with. And this would
Yeah.
have made
And
life so much easier.
yeah, I think this is awesome for those that are not familiar with this. This is, and I know some of you may not be with doTERRA yet, or you're someone invited you because of the topic, but this is our doTERRA's wellness lifestyle pyramid. And the idea is you look at these buckets of things and really try to make some changes and improvements along those buckets. And that's how we get to a place where medical care is proactive instead of reactive, right? And they have doTERRA has an array, a suite of products that fit into each of these buckets, all designed to keep us healthy and living well. So yeah, so this is awesome. So, okay, so you had this life altering experience at 23, could not even walk. You go on this path of trying to figure it all out. You learn a lot. You consume all this information. You start to make changes. You start to see difference. And then when you get to the real source of the problem, you eliminate that.
Yep.
And that's what happened at that point. Well, how old were you when you had them removed, and what happened at that point?
38. So
Oh,
that was
wow.
8 years ago. Now it's a thing. You can look up breast implant illness. It's legitimized. Doctors understand it. Like it's a thing. But 8 years ago, it was kind of a new thing, not as well known. But I removed, I had explant surgery. That's what it's called. And you guys, within 1 month, I felt like I was in my young 20s again. It was the most surreal experience. I was not totally better. There are a lot of these chemicals that embed in our tissues. So it was a journey for me. I did 15 months of a very detailed detox protocol. And that's where I really developed a passion for this because I learned how the herbs work. I learned how oils work. Um, I learned so many things about binders, zeolites, humic fulvic acid, blah, blah, all these things. Um, and I got my life back. And if I had not experienced that myself, I would never have believed I could feel like this again, ever, like ever.
Mhm.
And so and now with my doTERRA work, I see people with ailments and we talk about them. And yes, I recommend like our foundational wellness bundle. We have doTERRA has some great foundational nutrition support, and that is the basis. So if there are gaps, we always start there. And then I say, let's talk about what we need to be taking away from your environment. Because if you're constantly being weakened by something that you're being exposed to, it could be like gasoline fumes. It could be if you're a construction worker, I don't know, something in the air, the buildings that you're building. If you're constantly exposed, your body can only do so much, right? So we talk about the reduced toxicity piece a lot too. Um, but there's a lot that you can do little by little. So it kind of feels overwhelming, but I would just not challenge, but encourage anybody who has any sort of area in their life or in their health where they want to improve, just look around, like literally look around your office, look around your children's rooms, look around their school rooms. We can't do much there, but like my daughter's like sensitive to a lot of chemicals. She has a lot of problems. She was born when I was not very healthy. And so it's been a journey. She's so much better. Um, but at her school, I know that they use a lot of harsh chemicals, and she reacts. She also reacts to mold. So you have to kind of look broadly, and don't be overwhelmed by it. Just pick with one thing. Pick one thing. If you use a lot of makeup, transition your makeup to like a clean brand. If you use a
Yeah.
lot of hair products, slowly just swap them out. You don't have to do
Yeah.
everything at once. It took me multiple years.
I think that's pretty common that it takes years for us once we figure out like, okay, my lifestyle is pretty toxic. How do I do this? But I will say, like, I started this journey 7 years ago when I started with doTERRA, and I was like, oh wow, all of these issues that I have, hormonal, digestive, respiratory, all these things that I'm dealing with. How much of this am I causing myself because of what I'm exposing myself to? And so I started then, and I started to see changes almost immediately. The beautiful thing is now, 7 years, even in those 7 years, there are so many options. There are so many more options. So for everything that, for most things, especially like self-care products and stuff, things that we use around our house, for every toxic item, we also have a non-toxic or something with a lower toxic level option for you. So it's not about like, oh, I can never use, we were talking earlier about bleach. Karen and I were talking yesterday about bleach. I can never use bleach again. My house will never be clean again. No, there isn't an option. We just ditch and switch, figure out ways that we can just live healthier and relieve our bodies of all of the toxins. And I also want to just throw in there, like, when your body is, and this is just a general rule across the board, when your body is focused on one thing primarily, it just cannot do the other thing. It just can't. So, do you remember like when COVID was a thing? They would say if you have a pre-existing condition, you are more susceptible to COVID, or to having COVID being really bad for you. Why? Because your body is already trying to regulate your blood pressure, regulate your cholesterol, do all these things that are off off kilter. And now a new infection comes and it just can't support you in the way that you want and needed to. That's why this is so important. If we can stop our body from having to fight all these toxins every day, all day, constantly, then it can do other things like release weight, which is something I know a lot of people want to do, help us manage stress, help us find homeostasis in other ways too. Okay.
Totally.
Okay, this is good. This is good. This is good. So don't be overwhelmed, guys. We can take this one step at a time, one room at a time, even. Okay, we have a couple of questions that are popping in. One of the questions that we have is around how many times should you do a detox? So before you can answer that question, but I also want you to talk about some of the detoxes that are out there in comparison to what doTERRA has. And we're having this conversation, you guys, because
More complicated and crazy than it really is.
okay. So we're having this conversation because doTERRA is starting the year promoting a 90-day cleanse. There's lots of perks and benefits to joining in and doing this 90-day detox program along, with the company. So that's kind of what inspired this conversation. But tell us from your experience, Karen, like tell us about some of the options that are out there in the world.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
So there are all sorts of cleanses, right? Cleanses, detoxes. It could be as something as like a 3-day juice cleanse, right? Or it could be, I once did a 5-day soup cleanse. Um, there are cleanses specific to certain ailments. Um, there are 30-day cleanses, 90-day cleanses. So there are all sorts. And if you were to look at them, anything less than 90 days, in my opinion, is a good start. It's not going to be the thing that resets your body. And the reason is it takes like 90 to 100 days for your red blood cells to turn over. Like our bodies take time to regenerate. And what you want to do is build your cells kind of new or fix them in a way that is sustainable, right? Like they have the time to get healthy and then they can maintain that. And so I was thrilled when doTERRA came out with a 90-day detox in addition to the 30-day cleanse. The one that I did, you guys, after my explant surgery was intended to be 3 months, but I knew I needed to cleanse so much, and I have heavy metal tests to prove like the burden. And my daughter, I've done one for her, and she and I match exactly. So that genetic inheritance of toxicity is real. Like my body was super high in cesium, she's high in cesium. Thallium, she's high. Mercury was like off the charts. Hers was off the charts. She's a kid. She should not have that. So it was from me. But the 90-day one that I did, I extended that third month. It was a brain phase, it was called, for another year because I wanted to make sure that I was really and I was feeling good. And cost wise, I will say they span like from $30 to the one that I'm very familiar with is 8,000. And I'll share this quickly. Last year, I worked with Dr. X. He is a very well-known naturopath, has like over 1 million followers. He actually was affiliated with doTERRA for a long time. Um, my understanding is he moved on, gifted his organization in part because we can't make medical claims, right, with doTERRA. And he's a um, doctor of chiropractic. I think he wanted to have more ability to diagnose and treat all those things. So anyway, he's great. And I'm looking right now actually at this. I was working with his company for a bit um, to bring in people to one of his detoxes. It was 4 months, and you guys, it was $8,000. And I'm not sharing anything that's not public information. Um, but I have all of, what we would talk to clients. They would come in, they would sign up for an hour-long interview. We would make sure that they were a good fit. You guys, there are so many people struggling in this world. Like I'd be holding back tears during these conversations because so many people are struggling. It reminded me so much of what my life was like for so long. But hit the detox that we were bringing people into for $8,000 over 4 months was very similar to what doTERRA has in the 90-day reset. It's crazy. The beginning focuses on opening up detoxification pathways because if you're pulling toxins out of your cells too quickly and your pathways aren't open, like your lungs aren't functioning well, your bladder, your colon, you have a lot of buildup, your liver um, is toxic, then hold on, then you really aren't going to excrete and you can auto circulate. You can recirculate those toxins, get pulled out. And oftentimes they end up in the brain. So you want to have your pathways open and you want to focus on mitochondrial health because that's our energy factories in our cells. doTERRA's month one does that. The other detoxes, they do that in a different way. It's usually much more expensive. And then we go in and cleanse for a while, and then we rebuild all the tissues. So it's the same kind of three-step process. And sometimes when I talk to people about the 90-day, it's like, oh my gosh, it's 200, it's 215 for the first month. The second month is 275. That I can't do that right now. And I say, that's fine. Start with filling in nutritional gaps. But also consider what your health challenges are costing you. Consider like the days off work when you're sick, the lack of ability to play with your grandkids. You can't get up off the floor if you're kneeling down, playing with your grandchild. Um, whatever the case can be, especially like if you work in sales, you're missing opportunities to be out there. If your compensation is variable, every day that you're not working, it shows up in your paycheck. And so think about the opportunity cost versus just the investment that you're making. Like, and it's actually kind of a no-brainer. But so there are a lot of cleanses out there, and I love doTERRA's.
Yeah, what's funny, Karen? I'm really glad to hear you say this, and I don't know about anybody else because I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do. I last year I had this weird. Okay, it was an eyelid rash. My eyelids, it looks like eczema all over my eyelids, and I was like, what in the world? And everything I tried, nothing worked. And I was like, usually skin problems is a manifestation of something inside, not usually a reaction to something outside. And everything I use, facial cleanser, all that stuff is clean. So I'm like, what in the world? So I said, I'll do doTERRA's 30-day cleanse. I did it when we were at Founders Retreat, and it went away like this. Like within 2 weeks, it was gone. Well, guess what? It's the exact same time a year, and it's coming back. Not as bad, but it's back. And so I was like, oh, I'll just do the little 30-day reset. That should be fine. But you're saying we really need, if you want to reset, you really need 90 days. That's how long it takes the body.
My experience, my belief, my education says that if you were to do the 90-day, there's a very high likelihood it wouldn't come back next year. Whereas if you do the
Fair enough.
30, it could go away now, but
Mhm.
perhaps the root of it hasn't been addressed. Maybe not,
Interesting.
but yeah,
And
yeah.
so this is what someone in the comment is asking. Helena is saying, so how many times should you do the detox? So let's say we all do the 90-day reset with doTERRA this month. How many times are we doing that?
Okay, I think everybody's situation is different. I have heard of somebody doing it back to back. I don't think
Oh,
that's
wow.
needed for most people at all. Um, I would say once a year on average. Just give yourself one quarter where you're cleaning out. And then the 3 quarters of the year, you're doing your normal stuff. Um, if you have more health issues, perhaps twice a year. So that's literally half the year you're going to be cleansing. But if you think about it, um, we're being inundated every day. It's a daily like battle we're kind of fighting. I know that sounds bad, but there are over 800,000 chemicals in circulation. 1,500 get, what is this at? 1,500 are created every year. Only like 10 are tested for like neurotoxicity, like toxicity to our brains. Think about how many people are struggling with anxiety, depression, all of these things. Um, and then none of them, apparently, this is the last time I did this research, none of those chemicals are tested to see what happens when they are both put together. So the synergy. So like chemical A plus chemical B might not be just A plus B. It might be impact, much, much greater because of synergies.
Yeah.
So my belief after this experience, I believe everybody would benefit, and once a year should be enough. And the benefit that you get way outweighs the cost in terms of finances or like effort, because
Yeah.
you have to keep a tracker. You have to, and
Mhm.
what I like about the cleanse, the 90-day detox is we give guidance usually on like food choices. But the way I run mine, I don't know about you, Danny, but I provide like a Whole Foods kind of cookbook, not provides digital. And and then I say just pick one thing that you want to do to improve your diet. Maybe you drink a lot of alcohol, so you minimize that. Or maybe you love sweets, so maybe you minimize just you don't have to cut it out completely. Just make a conscious effort. Just choose one thing. So you're making a lifestyle change in addition to taking the
Mm.
supplement. Yeah.
So you're not saying, and that everybody's situation may differ, because if I'm unable to walk, I'm going to take extreme measures, right? But let's say we feel relatively good. We're aware of this. We just want to do a detox. We could do the 90 days, make one change in our diet, right? But if we have a pretty good lifestyle, we can just continue on with that and adding that in. We don't have to say, okay, no sugar, no that, nah, 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 nah. Is
Right.
that what you're saying?
I think so. Now, if
Yeah.
you were to go to a practitioner, a functional medicine practitioner, integrative, MD, um, they might ask you to do more, especially a functional medicine practitioner. They might ask you, to go ahead and cut out the chemicals in your cleaning products so you could take it as far as you want. That's the beauty of doTERRA, I think, is we are empowered to manage our own health. We learn, we do it. You guys, I used to spend $500 a pop to go see my functional medicine doctor, like just to walk in, spend an hour. It's great. I had an hour with her, but it was $500 just to see her. And doTERRA actually teaches us everything that I learned during that journey. And that's a big reason why I aligned myself with the company, because I thought to myself, I was making good money my last career. How could I afford this if I wasn't in that type of career? A lot of people can't. That is not fair. That is not right. Everybody should have access to the information if they so choose, especially people who are sick, because oftentimes they can't work. Like the people I
Mm.
used to talk to when I was working with Dr. Axe, they were so sick, they could not hold down a job. They couldn't be there physically. They couldn't stand, if they were in a job where they had to stand. They couldn't, you know. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. I love it. I love it. This was good. This was such a good conversation. I know that you guys probably have some questions. We want to just thank everybody who's watching the replay. Thank you for making time to watch it. Whoever shared this replay with you, you can follow up with them directly to get more information on doTERRA's 90-day detox and other products that they have to help support you in that lifestyle pyramid that we showed earlier. So stay tuned. We'll come back next month for another one. And if you are with us live, hang on, we're going to open it up for Q&A.